He's a very sharp handicapper here at the oddsbreakers.com who specializes in hockey, horse racing, and golf. Very pleased to welcome back Mr. Patrick Gates to the Oddsbreakers podcast. You can follow him at Gator Betting. Spring has sprung once again, Patrick. Here we are entering the summer fun, let's say.
Yeah.
Masters coming up. How the heck are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on. Always good to talk some golf. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. Maybe dabble a little NHL here if we have time at the end. That'd be nice. You're on a hell of a run, man. I gotta ask you, Patrick. You have been crushing it in golf, picking these winners. Some of these were like long shots of like, if I remember, 80-1 and a couple big ones. How the heck are you on such a hot run right now?
Listen, it's been good. Just kind of sticking to the same strategy they've always had. It's been nice. We just caught Taylor Moore at the Valspar 70-1. So that was a great hit. Gives us our third outright of the season. A little bit downturn from last year, but still positive. So looking forward to kind of keeping it going.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Did you change anything coming up this over the past year in your handicaps, or was it kind of just grinding and getting in all the right information?
No, I think it's kind of just keep it the same too. I mean, obviously you kind of got to make adjustments as you go on throughout the season and kind of just keep up to date with everything. But no, it's been a fairly consistent process in regards to kind of the handicapping strategy that I use.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the results have spoken for themselves. So I love it. And I love your massive Masters article that you posted at the oddsbreakers.com. I mean, you do not leave one detail out. And I think that's so important when you're diving into these handicaps, the type of grass, for the greens, bent grass, right? Yeah. Ryegrass for the cut and all that. So I think that's just absolutely wonderful how you do that and how deep you're actually going into detail here at the oddsbreakers.com. Just a ton of amazing value. So maybe that's part of the reason you're set. It's the way that you put all your hard work into it. We appreciate that so much for all the great info, Patrick. But
yeah,
why don't you tell?
I love doing it.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell us about the Masters? Now, obviously, most people watching this or listening to this podcast know what the Masters is, but why don't you give us a few nuggets and tell us about what makes it so special and what makes the course so unique?
Yeah, so it's the only major of the four that's played on the same course. So that's kind of it's unique in its own right too. Augusta, the history here as well. And I think this year's Masters is even a little bit more interesting too, now that we have a few different storylines coming on. The LIV Golf guys are now coming back to play in their first event with the PGA Tour. So you kind of see these stories coming out of Augusta of it should be a really exciting week, just given kind of who's there and who's playing in this week's event.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a powerhouse full of golfers, and it's cool that the LIV golfers guys are back now.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people aren't too happy with LIV. Obviously, it's funny. It's almost their ratings haven't been good, but you still have some of the same golfers here in this big event, which is awesome. Why are they allowed to golf here?
Yeah, so the PGA Tour doesn't actually oversee this event. It's run by the Augusta National Masters or membership group. So they can choose who they want to play in their event here. It doesn't have to be exclusively PGA Tour guys. Since some of the LIV guys did qualify, they are allowed to play in this event. They're also allowed to play in the Open last year as well. So you see kind of outside the PGA Tour that these LIV guys can still compete with the PGA Tour. And I love it. I think it's a little budding rivalry for golf. I think it only increases the viewership for everyone, especially. So I'm all for it this week. Let them play. And I think there's a few guys that can actually do well this week.
Yeah, I do too. What's interesting to me is how I'm wondering how upset like some of the PGA, the heads of the PGA are based upon this, or are they even upset? It's just it's an interesting dichotomy where this is one of those events. Is there other events this year that are going to have some LIV guys in it?
Yep. So they'll be at the Open Championship, the British Open. They'll be at, they won't be at the PGA Championship, I believe, but they will be at the US Open as well. So they'll be around for 3 or 4 tournaments this year, 3 or 2, sorry, excuse me. But yeah, no, I'm all for it. Let them play. And I only think it adds to the game. So I get the PGA Tour is not happy, kind of diluting the talent pool, taking all this guaranteed money away, kind of losing the prestige of PGA Tour joining this new tour. But no, I'm all for it. Let him play.
All right. Well, now that we have a full field of amazing golfers, let's get into like the basics.
Yeah.
What's the weather going to be like this weekend in Augusta?
I've seen so many things too of the wind, the rain. As of now, the forecast doesn't look great here. We haven't had a Monday finish at the Masters in a long time. I believe it's only happened once or twice before. So that's the PGA Tour's worst nightmare right now is a Monday finish. We had it a few. There's been a bunch this year. The pace of play has been kind of abysmal on the PGA Tour, and it is an issue. So I think that's the one thing they don't want to avoid is Monday finish. They may move the tee times around. So be on alert, check your TV schedule because I'm betting we're going to get a few early morning tee times for the next few days.
All right. Well, there you go. Check the schedule. And now, when it comes to rain, and I looked hard myself, I talked to some people that I know that are pretty heavy golf handicappers and bettors. Where could you get weather information for some of these golfers? You know, I found a little bit where, like they said, like Rory was good in the wet. Maybe it's because he's from the UK. I don't know. It rains a lot, but I would wonder if you factor that in much to your handicap, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely look at it. You're looking at the strokes gains, kind of wind factors, and you also have kind of the players, like you mentioned before, who've done well in the rain in the past. There are a few websites that do have that information out there, but it isn't publicly available. It's not free. You kind of have to pay for these premium websites that do have this information, but it is out there if you really want to dive too deep in the weather and wind factors.
I bet that's cool. Well, so it's out there. That's what we
Yeah.
know. And Patrick probably has a little bit of access to that. So that's great, man. Well, why don't you tell us how you handicap the Masters different than the average PGA event?
Yeah, so I mean, let's look at the Masters here. We have three guys under 10-1. We start off with Rory, Rahm, and Scheffler, the big three essentially. Scheffler is the defending champion of this event. Rahm has only won one major, and Rory's looking to complete the Grand Slam here. He's won the three other majors, he'll become the sixth person ever to do it if he's able to capture the green jacket here. It's tough to kind of go with one of those three given the odds. It's a great field. It's absolutely loaded, one of the best tournaments of the year. So while they are kind of some of the heavy favorites, and deservedly so, not taking away anything like that. Rahm's already won 3 times this year. Scheffler's won twice. Rory's only won one, but he has been playing better as of late, as we saw him and Scotty duel it out at the WGC 2 weeks ago. So those are kind of your big three that you're going to look at. And while they are enticing to grab, I didn't grab any of them this week. I do like Rory the best of those three. If you were going to play one, I would suggest Rory. But no, here you're just looking kind of course history matters more than most tournaments. Course history is huge. And so one of the guys I picked, Max Homa, obviously hasn't done well here in the past. He's missed 2 of his 3 cuts here. Last year, picked up a T48 finish here. But his game has improved so much over the course of this past year here. I think he's finally able to kind of compete for a major championship here. And even the T48 last year, he wasn't nearly in as good as form. He's already won twice this year. So I love Max Homa this week as well, along with Finau, Xander, and Cantlay. So those are my 4 outright picks this week.
Yeah, here they are right in your article here. And it's interesting because a lot of people say the Masters is a very heavy chalk type tournament, yet you're avoiding that a little bit. You're getting away from those bad prices on Rahm, Scheffler, and Rory, my man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're very tempting this week for sure, but you kind of look at kind of the unit allocation of how you're going to play around. So if you're going to pick one of those guys, you're going to have to put a kind of a single bullet on him, essentially. He's going to be your only pick outright of the week, unless you're going to really dilute your profits.
How much money is Tiger Woods going to pull in at 75-1?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at Tiger too. So he's played once this year, where he made the cut, finished top 45, I believe, or tied for 45th. So he's looked great. He looked better than expected. I'm not going to say great. He looked better than expected at that lone event this year. But I don't know. I'm not putting too much stock into Tiger this year here. He did win back in 2019. He has countless victories here, but I just don't think the play. Also, the odds are diluted on him because he's a fan favorite. Everyone bets on him. He shouldn't be 75-1 in this field. So the price you're getting is not a great one unless you grabbed a future on him a while ago. But no, I'm not putting too much stock into Tiger this week.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's just been through so much. He's banged up. I think he can have a couple You can have one or two good days. I just don't see 4 days in a row.
No,
That's
especially the
that's where it
talent
is.
of the rest of the field too. I mean, you look at he's not even kind of in a ballpark with Scotty, Rom, and Rory at this point. So,
It's funny.
um,
I over my years playing golf, I've met golf pros at golf courses all the
yeah,
time, and then you have your buddy and that's golfing with you. Ask them, "Why aren't you in the PGA?"
yeah,
Stuff like that, and the answer is always the same. It's well, I can shoot maybe 68 once, but can I do that 4 days in a row? Probably not. That's
yeah.
really the difference, isn't it?
Especially the tournament conditions too. Some of these guys play on. Augusta's got some of the fastest greens on the tour, so I think putting would be an issue for just your average golfer. And while it's not necessarily a key to victory here, it is important. So I'm not putting too much stock into the strokes game putting this week. So it's mainly their ball strike and their approach play.
Well, let's talk about Matt Fitzpatrick here on our Betfred's odds screen here at 45-1. I mean, wasn't he kind of on fire towards the end of the summer last year?
Yeah, I mean, he broke out. He won his first PGA Tour at the U.S. Open last year, and luckily we were lucky enough to grab him there at 35-1. So that was a nice hit. But yeah, Fitzpatrick's interesting. He hasn't been great this year. He's been dealing with a neck injury a little bit as well. So he missed the cut at a few events earlier this year at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and he is an elite ball striker. Don't get me wrong. His iron play is phenomenal, but this week, I'm not sure how exactly healthy he is or just kind of his history here at Augusta. So I'm off Matt Fitzpatrick this week, even though he is kind of one of my favorite players.
All right, cool. Good stuff. Let's look at some of your top 20 here. You got Cameron Young at plus 115 to make a top 20 finish, and Minwoo Lee at 2-1, plus 200 as well. So what are the thought processes behind those two?
Yeah, so placements are always interesting too, because you look at these guys and you're like, I could see them having success at this course and this event specifically, but they're not really guys you think can make that jump to win it outright. And we kind of got a little bit screwed last week. We had Corey Connors top 20, and he did end up winning the event. So it's always something you kind of got to factor in. But no, it's just guys that you think can play well, but just aren't ready for that next step to win the event itself.
So guys that you think can definitely move up a little bit, and they've have some course experience, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Cam Young too. I mean, he just lost to Sam Burns in the match play event. I think he has 5 or 6 just second places. So he is a guy that can definitely compete with the best of them, but hasn't been able to kind of get over that hump per se and win his first PGA Tour event.
All right, good stuff. So let me ask you this. What if it's Saturday, right? Maybe they are getting through with the rain and stuff. Are you playing future bets all the way until the end, or are you kind of just letting your stuff ride?
No, I haven't got too big into the live betting. It maybe once or twice kind of at an event throughout the year where I kind of see some guy who's been close but just struggled with a flat stick on the green. They'll maybe put some future wager on, but futures are also tough too, especially live betting in golf too. So I haven't dabbled too much into it. This is my final card for the Masters, so all the bets are in, and I'm pretty much going to let it ride from here on out.
Awesome stuff. What about match play? You doing any
matchups? Yeah,
matchups is what I was trying to say.
No, I did a little bit of matchups, but no, I maybe next year I'll get more into them. But it's been pretty much just outrights and placement bets. My handicapping strategy.
All right, man. Well, good stuff. That's a great little preview of the Masters. And if you guys want to know anything about this course, Patrick Gates has broken down the history here, the weather each day, TV information, comparable courses here, what kind of grass is on here. I mean, everything is just put in wonderfully at theoddsbreakers.com. So great work on this article. So let's pivot into a little hockey then, my man. I mean, we're close. The NHL playoffs, you just said off air, was starting on Monday. You have to be pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, so I was wrong. It's April 17th. But yes, down the playoff races are definitely heating up here.
2 Mondays from now. Yeah.
Most of the teams have kind of, 2 Mondays from now. So have secured their spot. But the wild card battle in the East and West is still going strong. So looking forward to it. Hopefully my Buffalo Sabres can make the push and their playoff out. But I'm not putting too much hope into it.
Not a ton of hope into the Sabres, huh? Well, I got quite a few
No,
of
young
those.
team, but maybe next year.
Yeah, they're sitting here at 300 to 1, so something like that to
Yeah.
win. It's pretty big here, you know. Well, let's just look at the actual odds to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, you got the
Mhm.
Bruins at plus 250, the Avalanche at plus 550, the Rangers at plus 900, the Maple Leafs at plus 900, and the Canes are all the way down to 10 to 1. I found that interesting. And then you know, kind of goes down from there. Is there anything sticking out to you there?
Yeah, I mean, Boston's a heavy favorite. I don't think we've seen kind of this big of a favorite since maybe last year with Colorado. Colorado obviously won it last year, defeating the Tampa Bay Lightning. But the Bruins this year, too, 2 games away from tying the NHL record in wins this season. They have 60 right now, so 62 will get them to that tie. 63 will put them over. But it's an interesting playoffs this year, too, because Boston is such a dominant team. They really have no flaws. Their goaltending is elite. They have forwards who can score, and their blue line is absolutely loaded with talent here. One interesting play that I do like going into this postseason is the Dallas Stars. I think the Dallas Stars are around 15 to 1. Last season, they made the playoffs, but were eliminated by the Calgary Flames. Jake Ottinger, their goalie, kind of really put on a performance, and he was kind of the main reason that they did make it a 7-game series in that. They have a new head coach in Peter DeBoer this season. After last year, they let their coach go, or he stepped down, and now they have him in. He's been to a few Stanley Cups with a few other teams, and Dallas does have the talent up front and on the blue line as well. So I do like the Dallas Stars to maybe make a postseason run. They have a tough matchup in the first round as of now against the Seattle Kraken, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see them in a Western Conference final.
Well, they're 20 to 1 here on Betfred.
20 to 1.
So,
Love it.
So there you go to win it all. What happened to the Lightning now down to 13 to 1?
Yeah, the Lightning are just getting up there in age, but I mean, they are still an elite team. They've made the Stanley Cup 2, 3 each of the past 3 seasons. So, and as of now, they're slated to play the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round, which is the same first round matchup they had last year. And again, they're offered a plus money. The Leafs haven't made out of the first round in years, while Tampa Bay Lightning have made 3 Stanley Cups. So that could be definitely one of my picks in the first round, is to continue just backing the Lightning at plus money.
Yeah, just kind of go round by round when it comes down to it. That's
Mhm.
not a bad way to look at it. You know, they didn't do it before, and you get some plus money there. That sure won't hurt. And they probably lost a few players from some of those teams the last 2 years, I'm guessing.
Yep, for sure. And kind of the other pick that I like is the Los Angeles Kings as well. They made a few deadline moves, acquired Korpisalo from Columbus in net. Their goaltending was kind of their major concern there for a while, but they addressed that, and I think they have the roster again to kind of go to another Stanley Cup.
LA Kings listed at 25 to 1 here. And so that's another nice little long shot for the NHL Stanley Cup 2023. Thanks, Patrick. What a bunch of great information. And I'm guessing people could find your articles at the Odds Breakers on your Twitter feed. And you have a nice little show that you do every single week, don't you?
Yeah, so we started doing the podcast live stream, Expected Bets 4. Go give that a follow, but NHL gambling podcast. So be sure to check that out as well.
All right. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on and breaking down the Masters, breaking down a little bit of NHL coming at the end, my man. Really appreciate all your hard work and your great information at the oddsbreakers.com. If you don't follow Patrick, make sure you follow him at Gator Betting. He is one of the top golf handicappers that I know. Thanks a ton, Patrick.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.